Every global currency has its ups and downs, but history shows one truth: nothing lasts forever. Empires rise, they dominate, and then they fall. And all those centuries of power and collapse led to one moment. 1944. When the world gathered to decide who would control money itself. And in that single decision, the course of history changed forever. But that moment in 1944, at the Mount Washington Hotel, didn't come out of nowhere. The world didn't just decide overnight who would rule the money. It was the result of centuries of rise and collapse. To understand how we got there, we need to go back, way back, to the year 1450, when a small nation on the edge of Europe began charting the unknown seas, and in doing so, created the world's first global currency, Portugal. Portugal was small, but its ambition was massive. With new ships, new maps, and fearless explorers, they changed the world's trade forever. In an age when people still thought the edge of the world meant death, the Portuguese went further, chasing fortune across uncharted oceans. After the fall of Constantinople in 1453, the ancient spice routes to the east were cut off by the Ottomans. While other European powers panicked, Portugal refused to wait. They sailed around Africa, discovering a new path to India and beyond. Lisbon transformed almost overnight. It became the beating heart of global commerce, a city where goods from Africa, Asia, and the Americas collided. Gold, spices, silk, everything passed through Portuguese hands. The real, their silver coin, became the passport of global trade, trusted from Europe to Asia. With explorers like Vasco da Gama and Magellan, Portugal's flag reached every corner of the known world. At its height, the empire stretched across 4 continents, from Brazil to India, from Angola to Macau and China. But success came with a price. Maintaining fleets, armies, and fortified outposts drained the royal treasury. Their navy stretched thin, and rivals, the Dutch, the British, the French, all wanted a piece of Portugal's empire. Corruption grew, trade slowed, and then came disaster at home. The king died without an heir, throwing the kingdom into crisis. In 1580, Spain absorbed Portugal into the Iberian Union, taking over its colonies, its wealth, and its influence. The Portuguese real, once the money of explorers and kings, vanished from world trade. In less than a century, the empire that discovered the world lost it. But history never stops. Portugal's fall left a vacuum, and the next superpower was already rising from the mountains of silver in South America. Spain. The empire built on silver. In 1545, high in the Bolivian Andes, Spanish explorers discovered a mountain made almost entirely of it, Potosi. It became the richest source of silver the world had ever seen, producing nearly half of the planet's supply for almost a century. From that moment, Spain minted its legendary pieces of 8, stamped with a P for Potosi. These coins spread across continents, from Europe to Asia to the Americas, becoming the world's first truly global currency, the Spanish silver dollar. Galleons loaded with treasures across the Atlantic, In Manila, Spanish silver was traded for Chinese silk. The crown's vaults overflowed, and for over 100 years, Spain dominated world trade. But the more silver flowed in, the more corruption grew. Wealth replaced productivity, and easy money made Spain lazy. King Charles I left his son Philip II a mountain of debt, 36 million ducats, and an annual deficit he could never escape. Between 1557 and 1596, Spain defaulted on its loans 4 separate times. The same silver that built its empire now destroyed it through inflation. Prices quadrupled, wages collapsed, and faith in the crown's money began to fade. When the mines slowed under Philip III, Spain's entire system crumbled. By 1641, the Iberian Union was dead, and with it, Spain's global power. The Spanish silver dollar, once the world's trusted coin, had become a symbol of overreach and decay. And while Spain drowned in its own wealth, a smaller nation in the north was about to rewrite the rules of money entirely. Netherlands. A tiny republic surrounded by giants, Spain, France, and England, yet somehow it became the financial capital of the world. By the mid-1600s, Amsterdam wasn't just a city, it was an idea, a place where trade, innovation, and freedom collided. The Dutch didn't chase gold or silver like Spain. They created something far more powerful: trust. In 1609, they founded the Bank of Amsterdam, the world's first true central bank. It standardized currency, guaranteed deposits, and gave merchants a safe, reliable system for global payments. Their money, the Dutch guilder, quickly became the most stable and respected currency in Europe. With that trust came power. Dutch merchants built the first modern stock exchange. They pioneered marine insurance, corporate shares, and a new concept: investing in a company's future. The Dutch East India Company became the world's first multinational, shipping goods from Java, India, Japan, and Africa. By the 1660s, Amsterdam controlled a third of all global trade. The guilder was used across continents. Its value backed not by gold mines or colonies, but by innovation and efficiency. But success has a way of turning into arrogance. Wars with England drained the treasury. Between 1780 and 1784, the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War broke their economy. The Dutch East India Company collapsed under debt, and confidence in the guilder evaporated. After nearly 80 years of dominance, the Netherlands fell into the same trap as every empire before: overextension, debt, and decline. The guilder faded, and the world turned its eyes to a new rising power, one fueled by coal and steel: Britain. The empire that turned industry into power and money into dominance. By the early 1700s, Britain had learned from everyone who came before. Portugal's navigation, Spain's expansion, the Dutch mastery of finance, and it combined it all. The result? The most powerful empire the world had ever seen. The British pound sterling became the backbone of global trade. Backed by gold, discipline, and the Industrial Revolution, it wasn't just a currency, it was a symbol of order and strength. London became the beating heart of the financial world. By the 1800s, over 60% of global trade was priced in pounds. From cotton in India to tea in China, coal in Wales, and railroads in America, every deal, every shipment, every empire transaction flowed through the pound. The gold standard, formalized in 1816, made Britain's currency the most stable on earth. And the British Empire, stretching across a quarter of the world's land and population, gave it reach like no other. But even the sun that never sets began to fade. 2 world wars drained the empire dry. After World War I, Britain's national debt exploded from £650 million to over £7 billion. And the Second World War finished the job. By 1945, Britain had won militarily, but lost financially. Debts soared to 270% of GDP. The empire began to crumble. Colonies gained independence. Gold reserves vanished. The pound, once untouchable, weakened, and global confidence shifted across the Atlantic. United States. And there we go again. The year is 1944. The world is bleeding from 2 world wars. Inside the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, delegates from 44 nations meet behind closed doors. Their mission was to rebuild global finance and decide which currency would anchor the new world. Britain is bankrupt, Europe is shattered, and across the ocean, one nation stands untouched, industrially dominant, holding 2/3 of the world's gold, the United States. So the decision is made. Every major currency will be pegged to the dollar, and the dollar to gold. And in that instant, the world crowned a new financial empire. The American century began. For decades, the dollar reigned supreme, rebuilding Europe, fueling trade, defining power. Even when the gold link broke in 1971, the dollar didn't fall. It found a new anchor: oil. The petrodollar was born, forcing every nation to hold dollars just to survive. But no empire escapes the pattern. The wars in the Middle East cost trillions. The debt grew beyond comprehension. The printing never stopped. And slowly, the same cracks that destroyed the currencies before it began to appear again. In 2000, 70% of global reserves were in dollars. Today, barely 58%. BRICS nations are creating systems that don't need it. The US debt now exceeds 120% of GDP. And the trust that once held the world together is starting to break. Portugal had its ships, Spain had its silver, the Dutch had their banks, Britain had its empire, the United States had the dollar. And now, it too faces the same crossroad. The cycle is repeating. The overextension has begun. And history is whispering the same warning it always does. Nothing lasts forever.